The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe is one of the best poems in the language to memorize, because even though it's over 100 lines long, Poe deliberately crafted it with certain structural and sonic repetitions that makes it easier to remember. Every October, I love to revisit the recording of James Earl Jones reading The Raven. Jones, one of the great American actors of all time, served as an honorary board member of our nonprofit and visited the International Poetry Forum reading series on 3 occasions. When you go and listen to the recording of this poem, pay attention to 3 things. First of all, the pronounced, almost trudging rhythm, which is technically described as trochaic. Trochaic meter features a pattern of a stressed syllable followed by an unstressed syllable. This is the inversion of iambic, which is more familiar in English language poetry. So in Shakespeare, we have the iambic unstressed, stressed. In Poe's trochaic, we have stressed, unstressed. So once upon a midnight dreary. The second thing to pay attention to is the almost ridiculous amount of repetition of sounds within a line. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain. We have the alliteration of the S sound and silken, sad, uncertain. We have the rhyme and uncertain curtain. And we have other kinds of sonic repetition like assonance, which is a repetition of vowel sounds, and the words purple curtain, the UR sound. Third thing to notice is that the poem is structured almost like a song with a common refrain. The conversation, or sort of non-conversation in the poem, is between the speaker and the raven, and our eyes kind of bounce back and forth between the two. At the end of almost every stanza, we have this word, which is one of the most famous words in all of American poetry, nevermore. Now, I've been framing Poe in a pretty positive light, and I love Poe. There was one October in high school where I read every word that he published. But one thing that shocks a lot of my students is that there's almost no one who's gotten as much backlash from other poets and sort of the academy and his afterlife than Poe. Yeats, one of my favorite poets, says that while there are some lines and certainly some bits of prose that he loved, most of Poe's work can be described as vulgar and commonplace. Emerson dismissed him as the jingle man. Poe's most infamous hater is probably the prolific and often controversial Harold Bloom, who, whenever he needs an example for a bad poem, almost always brings in Poe. Well, I think it's fair to say that Poe's greatest strengths lie in his prose, and there is a kind of jingle to a lot of his poetry. I think this misses the point of what he's trying to do. Shortly after publishing The Raven, Poe penned a piece called The Philosophy of Composition, where he writes that The Raven attempts to be a poem that should suit at once the popular and critical taste. Whether or not we agree with this assessment, it's clear that he's at least half failed on the critical front, with the notable exception of France, where actually he's historically been revered as a more serious poet than he has been in America. But it's also clear that the poem has been a smashing hit on the popular front. It remains one of the most recited poems in English. I'm planning to revisit a lot of Poe's poetry and prose this week, so if you have any favorite works, or if you have strong opinions on him and his value as a poet, let us know in the comments.